Right. Hello there, and welcome to anybody watching us today. I am joined by Martha today, and Martha is one of our students in Thrivership School, and we're going to be diving into a little bit about Martha's journey, and also why she decided to join Thrivership School and any hesitations that she had before doing so. If we haven't yet met, my name's Karen Del Maestro. I'm your health and calmness coach, and Thrivership School is actually our group coaching program. So, Martha, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Always a pleasure to get to chat. I think the easiest place for us to dive in here is for you to tell us a little bit about your breast cancer story.
Well, I guess I will say, to be totally honest, that I was already on what I thought was such a complete, clean wellness track that finding a lump in my breast completely caught me off guard. And I was actually arrogant enough before that to think to myself, I'm so healthy, I'll never get a cancer diagnosis. So I don't know if that's why it hit me so hard. I had gotten out of the shower that morning. I'm 2 years out, so I was 52 when I was diagnosed. Let's see, 53. I think I just turned 53. So anyways, got out of the shower, taking the towel down in front of me, drying off. I was like, whoa, like, what's that? I was getting ready to go to work, but instead I went to a local walk-in clinic here in town where a very good friend of mine is a nurse practitioner. And I chose to go there for a couple of things because she knows me, we're good friends. But she spent most of her nursing career at a big teaching hospital as a nurse navigator with the breast surgeon and oncologist and all that. So she's an expert.
Yeah.
She also is a breast cancer thriver herself. So went in to see her. I really, praise be to God, think that, having her by my side really fast tracked me. In fact, my breast surgeon was on vacation and got a text message from my nurse practitioner where they decided I would just show up on Tuesday without an appointment and they would work me in. So yeah, I think it's a good news, bad news, same news. When you're diagnosed, they do get you in quick, but they get you in quick when it's bad, So yeah, so my stuff went really, really quickly. I kind of had thought that through that journey I was processing, going to counseling the whole time. And, what led me up to seeking out you was a Sunday, and it was the lowest emotionally, psychologically I've ever been in my life. I don't think I got out of bed until 3:00 in the afternoon. And I finally got up and I told my husband, I said, you know what? If I get hit with one more fight for my life diagnosis, I just don't think I'm going to fight. And as you know, I also have multiple sclerosis. And at this point in time, I knew it was no longer in So I did two things. I reached out to Jan.
Jan is a mutual friend of ours, by the way. So just for those of you that are like, who's Jan? Is there a new app out there that's Jan? No, but she's a wealth of information. Trust me.
I actually wrote a column for the newspaper. I think it comes out today, actually, on this whole thing, because, like you and I talked a few days ago, my anniversary for being cancer-free and breast reconstruction was just this past weekend. But I called her my column, she's definitely an influencer in the digital world of breast cancer. That's how I describe
it. Great description. Yeah. She
hooked us up, and then I also sat down that Sunday and got online and reapplied for stem cell treatment for the MS in Panama. as far as my concerns, like, I'm also a health coach. I know a lot of the things you tell me. I just need somebody to gently but firmly remind me and hold me accountable, call me out. And that's what you do. My only concern was being in a group with other women. I wasn't sure how I would like that. And let me tell you, like, I may not be able to remember everybody's names, but those are my women, those are my girls, that's my tribe. I want to, every time we have Thrivership School, like, I want to virtually hug them. And, I know that if I need them, they'll support me. And even on days that I don't think I'm doing good, I don't need to go to Thrivership School today. Like, I go because I know even if I'm in a place that day where I don't need the support, I want to be there for their support.
That's incredible. I mean, it's truly, if you don't mind, I'm going to back you up just a little bit. Do you mind sharing just the bullet points? And if you don't want to, please feel free to say no, Martha, because I never want anybody to share more than they're called to. But I think it's helpful for people to see, what was your treatment plan for breast cancer? What did you go through in your treatment plan, if you don't mind sharing?
So, let me go back. So I think my first appointment was with the breast surgeon, and then she obviously did blood work, set me up for the breast MRI, CT scan, and a bone scan. And then when all of that came back, they set up appointments. Like, they basically said, we're buying your lunch, you're going to be here all day. So I saw her, the medical oncologist, and radiation oncologist, and they had all, prior to my appointments, gotten together and discussed what they thought my best options were going to be. And so what I chose to do, because in the breast MRI, they found a lump. My cancer was in the right side. They found a lump in the left side. It was not cancer, but it's really close to the chest wall, and they would have had to go in there and get it, anyways. But I advocated for myself because I was not going to do another biopsy, because that was the most excruciating pain. Like, lidocaine, not doing it, probably never do it again.
What kind of biopsy did they do for you?
Well, I mean, I guess it's just a regular biopsy, but they deadened the breast with the lidocaine ahead of time.
Was it the punch one that they did, the core punch biopsy? Or yes, okay.
Yes.
Mine was different. That's why I asked. Mine was very different because my lump was close to the chest wall. And so it was a very different kind of biopsy.
Yes. So no, my actual cancer on the right side was very close to the surface, which is also why they didn't give me the option of saving my nipple on that side. But I had decided that I did not want to do another biopsy on the left side. So I went ahead, and this, I don't know how this sounds, and I'm kind of to the point where I don't even care how it sounds to anybody else, but I chose to do a double mastectomy because in my head, I wanted my breast to match. Like, that's what I wanted to do. And then so after my double mastectomy, my breast surgeon did tell me that it was, a good call because they did find that other lump. And even though it wasn't cancer, they would have to go in there and get it. And being close to the chest wall, it would have distorted my breast. So, it was a good call to do both. So I did that. And then I did, I think 16 rounds of chemo. They found when they took lymph nodes right and left, nothing on the left side, but they found what they called microscopic in one lymph node. So I did 16 rounds of chemo and then 28 daily rounds of radiation. And then I did the breast reconstruction. I still got one more surgery to do on that.
Right. And you chose to go with what for your reconstruction?
The deep flap.
Yeah. And awesome. Thank you for sharing that, because I think that I know for me, prior to breast cancer, I had no idea like how different the treatment plans can be for people because I wasn't in that world, right? Now, I think it's really good for us to see that nobody's journey is the same. And that's why I think it's so important for us to share just the snippets of what that looked like. And it was a lot. It was a lot. And like you said, you've still got one reconstructive surgery to go. So you shared that when you reached out to Jan looking for some guidance, for some help, that you were in this super duper low place, right? And that is something that I hear from so many women. And it's often, I think, because we're not prepared for what happens after active treatment ends. Did you have that feeling like, what now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Nope.
Yeah.
Because you're so happy that you're done, and but then you kind of like feel like you're kind of flailing in the wind, like, okay, now what? Like,
Yeah.
and even, and I've been in the medical field for over 20 years, doing occupational therapy, and I didn't even know what questions to ask. You know, I felt like I got very good treatment throughout. I felt like I was a good advocate for myself. My last reconstruction surgery, a few things, like the anesthesiologist called me. I have MS, and anesthesiologists kind of get a little, I don't say uptight, but there's a discussion that happens when you have MS and they want to put you in anesthesia. I'm hard to intubate. A little bit of a redhead. It didn't come back reddish, but so we had a good long conversation about all these things. And the last two surgeries prior to that, they took me into the OR before giving me anesthesia. So I was like awake and I'm like, So she called me the night before my surgery, gave me your personal cell phone number too. And I said, look, a few things. Can I please have a Xanax as soon as I get there? Number two, I don't want any lidocaine, and I want my IV in the bend of my elbow. Number three, knock my ass out before you take me to the OR. And she gave me all of those things. And so yeah, I did advocate for that. And when I have my next surgery, I'm going to say the same thing. Like,
yeah, and I think that's so powerful, Martha. I think that so often we feel at the mercy of our doctors and we don't necessarily ask for these specific things. I'm kind of like you also. Maybe it's because we've had this experience of working in health and wellness, but I tell them, okay, this is going to be the best vein to get blood. Don't bother poking around, just go there. You want to do an IV, go here. You can't, for me, I mean, so for you, they use the left arm because the right had, you had lymph nodes taken on both sides. So
correct. So
again, so for those of you that aren't aware, if you've had lymph node removed, they recommend not having blood pressure taken on that arm, not having IVs or you doing blood work on that arm. But obviously, if you've had it removed from both, what do they recommend?
Because again, having been in occupational therapy for over 20 years, seeing patients myself, like the nurses, you should write that in big capital letters on the chart. So I, again, advocating for myself, asked my breast surgeon, okay, look, which arm? And so she will allow it on my left arm. But early on, after surgery, they did blood pressure on my ankle.
Yeah.
Because I had a little nerve damage on the left when they did that lymph node, and it was super just uncomfortable for blood pressure cuff. And also with the MS, one of the treatments that I had before was a once a month IV, and I don't have that many good veins on my left arm. The best vein they ever found was in my right bicep, so I always had my IVs put there. Well, that's no longer an option. And frankly, in my hand, they hurt. So you can put it in my elbow, knock me out, and then I don't care where you put it.
What's the matter? It doesn't matter.
Right. But if as long as I'm awake, you're going to do it my way. Now,
Oh,
even after I woke up from that surgery, I was in the hospital 3 or 4 days, and the poor little kid came in to draw blood. And I'm like, if you can't get it out of one of these 2 IVs, you're not getting it. And he kind of was a little huffy with me. He goes, well, I'll just get the nurse. You do that. And so he went and got the nurse, and she kind of I felt like she tried to kind of BS me a little bit, said that because the IV had been in more than 24 hours, they couldn't do blood. I'm like, then you're out of luck. It's my last day. I was fixing to discharge. And I'm tired of being poked and prodded. And so she came in, she flushed one of the IVs, and she did, give enough blood, I guess. They never asked for it again. So very adamant, self advocacies for that last surgery.
yeah, I think it's so important. And I think it's something that many of us learn on this journey. But don't stop. Like we're the only people that can do it for ourselves. And so to ask for what you want, the worst you're gonna get, the answer is no.
Right.
Okay, then we'll have a discussion. But ask for what you want, right? Awesome. So you said that when you were looking at that low point, I know, and I hate to take you back there. I do. I really hate it. But I can recall our first conversation too. That feeling of, if I've got to fight again, I don't know if I've got that in me. How did that make you feel? Because I know you have a family. Do you mind sharing what was?
Ooh, it was horrible. I think our first conversation, I probably not just cried, but probably ugly cried, throughout it.
Many people do. That's why
Yeah.
I have tissues, because I join in too. So, I do. Seriously, this is not an easy journey.
I have a husband and 3 grown sons. And when we first talked, I just had, one daughter-in-law. Now I have 2, and my youngest son, and he's not married, but we love the mother of his son. Like, she and my grandson were living with us when I was diagnosed, and she was an absolute godsend, through all the surgeries and stuff. So over the two years of that journey, the shape of our family did change a little bit. I am a fighter. It was foreign for me to just feel like I couldn't, I have since, just because I have since learned that I don't have to fight every day. Like, I can rest, number one. And I think probably the biggest thing I learned from you is the words that I use when I talk to myself, or when I allow somebody to talk to me. I don't have to be in fight or flight mode 24/7. I can lay that down, and I have laid that down. And that probably was a big part of the issue the day I talked to you, is my body and my mind just exhausted from being in fight or flight.
Yeah. I mean, I couldn't agree more, Mother. And I think the thing is that when we're in it, we can't see it. And, something that I've learned, myself. I mean, I'm on this journey too, right? As you well know, and I share my journey very openly in Thrivership School. But it's going through breast cancer is a trauma. And I don't think that word is used often enough for us to understand, no matter what our journey is, no matter if you've been diagnosed with DCIS, obviously if you've been diagnosed with metastatic breast cancer, even more so, right? It's a lifelong journey from that point on, however long that might look. And I know people that have lived 20, 30 years with metastatic breast cancer. So, but it's a trauma. And I think I remember us having a conversation about that and recognizing what your trauma response is. And we all have one, it's automatic. And understanding that we don't have to always do that, I think was such a huge turning point for you. Yeah. Did you have any hesitations about working together and joining Thrivership School?
No, I didn't. I know, not at all. Now, my only one little reservation, like I said before, was being a group with other women, because as
Yeah.
all women know, um, women can be mean to each other and women can be catty with each other. Um, Now, I have to say, not just about Thrivership School, but in this pink sisterhood, it's a whole different. Nobody wants to be in this little group, this sisterhood, but I've not found a group of women that have been more loving, more compassionate, more pay it forward, more supportive, more cheerleading for every woman that's come behind us. So I did take a leap of faith, just because after talking to you, I 100% believed in you. And just what kind of experiences I had, with my diagnosis, and people in my community reaching out to me. I was like, okay, like, if Karen says it's going to be okay, it's going to be okay. So that was my only reservation.
But I think that's a big one, right? I mean, I think that also we think, going through this, we feel often so isolated and alone, even if we've got the most amazing, loving support system around us. There are things that other people can't possibly get because especially with the emotional and mental components, it's so complex. And so I say very similar to you. I say, breast cancer is the club that you never want to be part of, but it's an unbreakable sisterhood, because I too have met the most phenomenal women on this journey. And and I include you in that, everybody that I get to cross paths with, there is something very special that unites us. And there isn't that cattiness or that bitchiness or whatever. Now, something that I do with Thrivership School is I speak to everybody before they come in. Why do I do that? I do that, number one, to make sure it's a good fit for whatever somebody is looking for, right? There might be other options to work with me in different ways. But it's also because you mentioned the love, the bond that all of you women have inside Thrivership School. And my job is to nurture that and create more of that with the women that we invite in, because it is so sacred, so special. And it's all part of that. So when you hear me, if you're watching this and you hear me invite you to a call, know that call, there's no obligation ever. There wasn't for Martha, there isn't for anybody I speak with. But if I believe it's a good fit, I'm going to extend an invitation to join the most amazing group of women and go through Thrivership School. And you get to say yes or no. So don't ever feel bad about that. But if you're thinking, wow, this sounds really cool, I'm going to invite you to book a call with me, have a chat, have a cup of tea and a chat. No obligation ever. So if I were to ask you, Martha, so far, and you touched on it a little bit, what has changed for you so far in Thrivership School? Number one, you're not constantly living in that fight or flight, which is such a huge thing for all of us. It was especially where you were at that moment in time, I think. But what
Right.
else do you think has changed for you so far?
Well, boundaries.
Love it. One of my favorites. I always got so okay. This is me being silly because we celebrate things in Thrivership School, right? We've all got our way of celebrating. Mine is a little happy dance, and boundaries I celebrate every single time because I love it.
Well, and as you know, I have three grown sons, and interestingly enough, my oldest son, he sets very good boundaries. So I kind of like our relationship. I guess it was easier, because as they become adults, the whole relationship changes. I will tell you, I do think that all three of my sons are mama's boys, and I love that. But they're also grown men, where mom now plays a supporting role. And my youngest son is an addict. And if you are an addict and you go through the 12 steps, you learn boundaries and you set boundaries and you respect other people's boundaries. And that's where he's at. He's been sober for over 3 years, and I have learned so much from him. It was that middle son that I didn't have boundaries with. And so I started setting some, and boy, did I get some pushback. But I stood my ground, and I do think it's something I'm going to have to continue to do, because he will jokingly say, he just recently got married, and they needed me, or they needed her mom, and we were off doing our own thing, and they jokingly said, y'all are supposed to be here when we need you. And I was like, so, but that kind of was just indication to me, like, yeah, they're not, just, they're grown, but I didn't jump in and go, oh, let me help, let me fix, let me do whatever. I'm like, you're grown.
And let me ask you, because I think that one of the things that all of us struggle with setting boundaries is feeling guilty about doing it. So do you feel guilty when you set boundaries now, or does it make you feel more empowered, more like you're sticking up for yourself?
Okay, I'm gonna.
Or is it still that guilt? Yeah, I mean, be honest, because I think.
Child. I needed it so badly, and so the first time I did it, it felt good, and it made me realize, like, it is something I needed. Now, kind of twofold. I think the reason, because he's 30, he just got married. I think the reason I had fewer boundaries with him is because he was single, and he worked 12-hour shifts. They rotated days and nights. Sometimes you just need somebody to show up and let the plumber in, So things like that. It didn't matter really what I had on my schedule. If he needed me, I dropped it and I would do it. Well, he's married now, and that's her job. So it's a little twofold for me. I think now that he's married and has a life partner, he doesn't need that from me as much. So there's not the occasion for me to have to set that boundary as much, but I am very aware of it now, and I will continue doing it because I know it's good for me. And interestingly enough, kind of early on, the very first time I set that boundary, I think it was around Easter, and I didn't really have any plans for family to come over. And so like, hey, we want to come over on Saturday and have dinner and play cornhole or whatever. Well, I already had like a little small plan, which was we were going to have steaks. My husband was cooking. I was not. And so the boundary is, yes, you can come, but you need to bring food. And they did. And it was great. And this is before they were married. So my soon-to-be daughter-in-law said, Martha, you seem kind of stressed. Are you okay? And I really took that as an opportunity to explain to them that I said, I've been working with my health coach, and she's explained to me that even though my cancer treatment is over, that I still live in fight or flight. So yeah, I am stressed. I'm working on it. But it opened the door for me to be able to explain. I don't know if anybody can understand it, but I said it. I said it out loud. And they heard it, you know. So
And ultimately, that's all we can control, right? Is us saying and expressing how we feel, what we
which is
want.
also new for me. That's also not something I learned from Thrivership School, is
Yeah,
saying what I need.
yeah. And I think, and I know this was, I mean, this used to be me, right? These are things that I have learned. Hence why I've come up with a formula to teach them. Was, I mean, I can remember never even asking myself, what do I want? So I didn't even know what I wanted, let alone know how to ask for it. And those are things that we handle, like who am I and what do I want? Those are in the first couple of months in Thrivership School, because if we don't know who we are, we're living by somebody else's rules in our life and the things that we think that we should be doing. So that's why it's got to come, you know, first. So these, I mean, these are big shifts. And what I love is these are lifelong shifts. These are not little shifts that you learn and then you go back to doing what you do. You don't unlearn this. Once you learn how to do it, you're going to slip. We're all human, right? I mean, I talk about that very openly. But you can't unlearn it. So what do you believe is possible for you now?
Anything and everything.
Yes. And I know she means it. I really do know that she means it because it's so true. Yeah.
It's the truth, because even back, going back to when the first time you and I talked, I said I reached out and got an appointment with the Stem Cell Institute for stem cell treatment again. That's expensive. That's over $20,000. I had to leave the country for it, and I really searched myself to go, is it worth the money? I'm 55. Cancer's on the table. No guarantees not going to come back. Is it worth the 20-something thousand dollars for that treatment? And the reason I was thinking that way is because I couldn't think past where I was. But as you well know, we discussed, and I don't think I've updated you, like, I'm so excited. I think it was yesterday. I purchased my domain name. I now have a website. It's not live yet, but it's a blog. I'm writing for the newspaper. I've written my first ebook. I have goals. I have life goals. I have plans. Like, I can't wait for that to go out. I put a deposit for an Alaskan cruise next July. I can do whatever I want.
Yeah. I just got goosebumps.
No,
I do,
because I would not, I guarantee you, I mean, there was no way I would have even thought about any of that part the first time I talked to you. If I was not even considering spending $20,000 on stem cell treatment, because at that time I didn't value or even consider what kind of life I might have left. Then I was saying I'm already 55 now. I'm only 55. Like, I got a lot of time to go.
yeah.
That day's like, I'm already over 50. Like, that was a, downward, downhill from here kind of thing. It's not so down. Like, I got enough, time left to have a couple more careers if I want, definitely was not thinking that the day I talked to you.
And how many months ago was that?
Was it March, April?
It was March. Yeah, it was March. So we're recording this at the beginning of September. So 5 months. March. I have to get my fingers out. April, May,
Yeah.
June, July, August, September. 6 months. 6 months. I'm sorry. I'm not.
Right.
That's about breast cancer brain, right? So 6 months, and that kind of turnaround
Yeah.
in going from feeling imprisoned and there's no way out to now busting out and saying the world is my oyster. I get to do whatever I want to do. And she's doing it. I mean, look at that. The website, growing the business, and I'll be supporting you every single step of the way. Because no, and trust me, I believe in you. So if you could narrow down one thing, what's been the best part of Thrivership School? I mean, getting your life back is pretty damn good, but I can actually top that. But what's been the best part of Thrivership School so far for you?
I think that's probably would have to be it. Is you can't put a price on the difference between how I feel now and the first day I talked to you. And I talked a little bit about the cost of Thrivership School, and it's enough that you show up.
Yeah.
It costs enough to show up. And to be honest, the first couple of times, that's the reason I showed up. Because I paid for it.
Yeah.
And like I said before, now I show up because something may be said today that I need, or I might be able to support somebody else. They may need something from me. And as you always talk about that breast cancer personality type, like, we love that. We love being able to help somebody else.
Yeah.
So
would you say it was worth the investment? I think that's a really good.
far.
Okay.
Far.
It is an investment, and it is at a price point, specifically, right, intended price point that you are going to show up. And I think I had said that to you. I say it to most people because it is an investment. And don't be put off. There are different ways of paying for it that can make it more achievable, but it is an investment. But I think the investment in you to get your life back.
And I think I would have to say, because somebody else coming in that might be in the same headspace I was in would be to tell them pretty much what you told me is, you're worth it. You're worth it. No matter how you feel the first time you talk to Karen and you hear that price point, you are worth it. And you will be grouped with a handful of women who will love you and support you unconditionally, and probably the only ones you'll ever talk to that know exactly how you feel. Exactly how you feel.
I just wish I could hug everybody. By the way, we've got plans for that, hopefully in 2024. So
Yes.
Is there anything else that you would want to share with somebody? I think you've shared beautifully, and I think really from your heart and your experience, and I love that. But anything else that you'd like to share with anybody that's considering working with us and coming into Thrivership School?
I agree with what you said earlier, that it's a trauma. I guess I didn't think about it that way. I think one of the things that we've talked about in the past is that how, you get that diagnosis and how sometimes we tend to minimize it by the time we get to this side of it. Like, yeah, yes, I had cancer. Or I think one of the ladies in the group said, well, I had a lumpectomy. Like, they minimize that. Like, no, like, don't minimize it. Like, we tend to minimize the trauma because we came out the other side and we're alive. Well, no, you still got that trauma. It's still a beast that we need to learn to tame, and so I think I would say you're worth it. Spend the money and don't minimize the trauma because
It was a trauma. Yeah, it was a trauma for all of us. I think those are really valuable lessons. Thank you. I just want to hug you. And I just want to say thank you so much for sitting down and having this chat with me today, sharing about your story, being vulnerable, being real, being you. We don't wear masks inside Thrivership School. We show up as our real, authentic selves on the good days and the bad days and all the days in between. And I say on your bad days, that when you really don't want to show up, those are the days you need to show up.
I combed my hair for today.
Because you were living with chemo curls, right?
Yes, well, I got my first real haircut, since my hair coming back, and it's been. They say I've read that if your hair comes back curly after chemo, that maybe about after 18 months it might kind of settle down. So it's normally super curly, but we did cut about an inch off. So I haven't allowed it to be curly. I have straightened it since then. So we'll see how much curl I have left.
I think it looks awesome. It looks super cute. And in this hot Texas weather, I'm sure a relief to just have it that little bit shorter too. Yeah.
Thinned out.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Martha, thank you so much, my dear. Seriously, you're such a special part of our group. And I am so, so thrilled that Jen introduced us that day and that I've been able to support you to getting to where you are today. All I can do is guide, but it means that you're embracing what you're learning, and I can't do that for you. And so give yourself a hug too, and know that you're doing the work to get your life back.
I tell you this every time we talk, but I hope every time you're done talking with us, you know how much we all care and appreciate and love you as well.
Thank you.
Did you save my life?
Oh, you're gonna send me off now. It's truly, thank you. I don't take that lightly. I seriously don't. It means the world. And if you can't tell, there's so much love in this group. It's just an outpouring, right? There's an outpouring of love from all of our members, and it's special. It's special. I've never been part of anything like this, and it's an honor for me to be part of it, as well as guide you through this rocky path. And it's an honor. So thank you for trusting me to guide you. All right. Thank you, everybody that watched today. Anywhere you're watching this video, you'll find a button to book a call with me, to have a chat, just like Martha did before we started working together. Just like I said earlier, let's have a chat. Let's see if Thrivership School is for you. If it isn't, I have other offerings, but you'll get something out of it, a conversation, no matter what. So Martha, thank you again for taking the time to be with us today.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.